Random enlightened commentary.
So I know I've been having my fun with this a little bit, but I wanted to shift gears and talk about something a little bit more serious, something that I think we all need to pay more attention to these days. Let's talk about community accountability. It's something that I've been trying to understand for some time now, how it functions or doesn't function in today's world. And when I see people care so much for something that they not only want to protect it but want to see it flourish, I like to view those actions as those with noble intentions. But when those intentions are met with hostility from a group or community that it's intended to help, I've seen people within the community silenced for it in a variety of ways. Now, I know not everything's black and white, and not all actions are noble and pure. I'm not talking about those actions, but I'm talking about the ones that come from wisdom, compassion, integrity. Those are the actions that are being reduced to the same standards as those that have clear intentions to do harm. And that's what I don't get. So, like I said before, this has puzzled me for quite a while. Why seek to bury lessons that can elevate a group further just because they're not built for the group's convenience? Growth is never about being convenient, but it's always worth having gone through the process. So, I've come to conclude that in such instances, it's less about growth and more about retribution. To truly unravel this phenomenon, I had to turn to the roots of what makes a group or community. The way I see it, a community is not only formed through mutual bonds of connection like values, culture, interests, or heck even appearance, but also mutual contribution. Mutual contribution creates the trust factor between people and essentially lies at the core of any healthy relationship. The goal is not necessarily to contribute the same things, but rather things that represent you, that you're willing to share, like a piece of yourself, for the growth or betterment of that relationship or community. If you share a piece of yourself with the community, and no, I'm not talking an arm or a leg, but values, interests, identity. That essence of sharing will come to represent who you are to the community. Now, just because you identify with a community, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have been taken into it. And this could be for a variety of reasons, like resources, for instance. However, the biggest driver of this comes down to the prevailing voice of that community. It may not be everyone in that community that fully buys into that voice, but everyone does allow that voice to prevail, whether it's out of respect or out of contentment. That voice forms the core identity of a community. The biggest question any group should consistently ask themselves is, how do we wish to be known within this world? The moment a group stops asking themselves such a question is the moment where confusion and dissolution seeps into the community. And soon tribalism becomes the prevailing voice in a last-ditch effort to save the group or community. This whole notion of, if you're not with us, then by default, you're against us. Today, I see many communities who've stopped asking themselves that crucial question, mainly because they believe they already know what they stand for or what they're fighting to protect. Arrogance, I believe, breeds ignorance, and ignorance kills growth. So when tribalism moves into a group, there is no seeking community accountability anymore, because the goal isn't growth, but it's survival. And because it's about survival, anyone seen as being against the prevailing voice is cast out, even if such actions can help the group thrive from an objective perspective. This approach has been further catapulted by social media, with the rise of online communities in the forms of follower bases or subscriber groups and forums. So we're seeing it a lot more because of that presence, that online presence. Now, cosmopolitanism is defined by the theory that you have a belief that all people are entitled to equal respect and consideration no matter their background. I'd like to also emphasize the point that you don't have to necessarily have personal respect for someone to believe that they're worthy of respect. Those are two different things. They may not have earned your individual respect because maybe you just haven't had enough rapport to formulate that respect or that bond, but Rather, your consideration of that individual or of that group comes with a general understanding that everyone is on a journey of evolution that they're undergoing, and that, in essence, makes them worthy of receiving respect, because no one is this static character over the course of their lives. They have the potential to grow, they have the potential to change. Cosmopolitanism is tribalism's opposition. So if you happen to have more of a cosmopolitan way of approaching life, you'll find yourself very isolated from many communities, even those that you identify with. So then the inner conflict becomes a choice between your identity or that of the community you identify with. Many people are in conflict with themselves today, so most of them figure it's simply easier not to say anything at all. But sadly, at what cost? Now we even have people afraid to speak what's truly on their mind. That action can eat away at the spirit and make people tired and souls weary. In the end, every person is left more vulnerable. I say all this to emphasize my belief in the fact that when you're part of a community and want to see that community elevated, you need to address the higher systemic structures at play that affect the community and the perceptions and behaviors at play within the community. And I think it's this latter part that's been lost in the conversations around social change. I think tribalism has corrupted the idea or the notion of what a tribe really should be or represent. And we need to get back to our roots by asking once more that one crucial question: how do we wish to be known within this world? If we're truly seeking or advocating for change, then let's advocate for change. Not a change that's convenient at a community level. That'll never yield the long-term results that we're seeking and that we want future generations to benefit from. But of course, larger society doesn't want to talk about this because it isn't viral news. However, dissolution and confusion, which breeds conflict, that is what makes headlines.